Hi, welcome to the Mudfest artist interviews. We'll get straight into it. So, artist, what is your name?
My name is Meredith Tyler.
Fantastic. And what pronouns do you use?
She, they.
Amazing. And what are you studying?
I'm studying a Bachelor of Arts, majoring in history and English literature.
Fantastic. Do you like it?
Yeah, it's really good. I'm not sure what job I'm going to have at the end of it, but it's very interesting.
Amazing. I feel like that's like every uni student ever. It's like nothing. We don't know what exists outside university.
I feel like everyone I talk to in arts is just like, yeah, I'm not sure what I'm going to do after I finish my undergrad.
Yeah. um, so what was your first home or where were you born?
I was born in New South Wales in Orange, like this little town out west.
Mhm.
But I don't really remember living there. We moved to WA when I was really young, and then to Northern Canada, which is like the first place I remember actually like living as a child. So that's probably my first concept of home.
Amazing. So you've really moved around a lot then as a kid.
Yeah, I think we moved between three different continents. I think like once I made a tally with my siblings, and we've lived in 11 different houses,
Oh my goodness.
like all across. So yeah.
Wow. How do you think that kind of impacts your, I guess, like understanding or I guess relationship with the idea of home? Because for a lot of people, it's like the house, but does that change because of that journey? Do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I think of home, I don't really think of like a particular house or like certain things inside a house. Like it's quite divorced from material possessions, I think, just because they're always changing. Like when I think of home, I think more about like my actual family members or like certain experiences. So like certain food and like the smell of that food. Like to me, that is like very evocative of home.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree. It's amazing. And do you think that those ideas kind of come across in your work for Mudfest?
I think I think a little bit. It's interesting because my work is very material based, literally because it's fabric. Um, so, but it's like very tactile, which I think is quite different to my concept of home. But at the same time, I think it works with it, like that idea of, I think in particular because quilts, you at least for me, there's something that you like sleep under that you like wrap yourself in.
Mm.
Like they are very comfortable places for me, and they evoke a lot of feelings in me in terms of like feeling safe and feeling warm. Which, like, when I feel those things, I often associate that with home or with being somewhere
Mm.
with my family.
That's beautiful. I realized I kind of jumped the gun and I forgot to introduce your work. Do you want to introduce it with like the title and the medium and everything?
Yeah, so my exhibition is called Washing Day, and it's four quilts which I've made that are being strung along a washing line of sorts. It's like a rope between trees on South Lawn.
Fantastic. I'm so excited for that. Amazing. So I really like that idea, just going back to what you're saying about the kind of feelings that objects can produce. And I think that is definitely something that really relates to home because home in itself is kind of just a label for things which make you feel comfortable. And I think your work does that really well, especially in its medium. I'm curious to know, how did you learn to sew? Was that something that you were taught um, like at school or like through family members or anything like that? Self-taught?
Never at school. My mum's a quilter. So I think the first quilt I ever made, I was 12. It's like a little small lap quilt, which she like helped me do. And I look at it now and the stitching is so bad. And I think like my mum, she had to like do the binding because that's all hand sewing. And I was like, I can't hand sew. Um, um, so, and then after I made that quilt, I just like didn't make another one for another 6 years, and then I picked it up again during the pandemic in 2020. and I made this enormous quilt, like for like a king size bed. It was ginormous, insanely large. That and ever since then, it's just like addictive, and I just like haven't stopped. I just always have a quilt on the go now.
That's amazing. I find it also addictive because I love sewing as well. I find it addictive to like hoard fabric. Every time I go into an op shop, I'm like, oh, that's a lovely curtain. I should get that curtain just in case I make this thing. Like, oh, it's so funny.
Yeah, I think my favorite, one of my favorite parts is actually the actual fabric shopping. It's so exciting. Like when you go to specifically to a fabric shop and you just get to like touch fabrics and like look at like the little pile of off cards and you're like, oh wow, that would look really nice on this other quilt idea I have.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like your like creative brain just explodes when you walk into a quilt store. Like, there's so many options of what we could make right now. So for your work, is there a particular feeling or idea or concept that you want your audience to take away?
I think probably that quilting is a form of art. I think because it's traditionally been considered like women's work and like craft work, and it's often like looked down upon. Like you have like painting and drawing and all these things which are very like fine art, and then you have things like embroidery and sewing, which are often kind of like condescended to. So I think like when you look at a quilt, if you stop and really look and you just think about all the hours that go into making these, like cutting out every little bit of fabric and then pinning, the sewing, the ironing, and then actually quilting it, it's like an incredibly labor intensive piece of work. Like I've spent months working on like one quilt. And I think I would love for people to appreciate that, and to appreciate like when you see like quilts on beds, like how gorgeous they are and how like the feelings that they evoke in you of like safety and warmth. Like whenever I see a quilt on a bed, I just want to like get into the bed. And yeah, but definitely just appreciating sewing more because it's really hard work.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. And I really love the fact that with sewing, I think because it is, I don't know, condescending and people are quite patronizing towards it. They talk about it more in terms of a craft rather than an art. But I guess the kind of history of that nature is that you don't go to art school to like learn how to sew or anything like that, but people who are like fantastic sewers have often learnt through like really beautiful experiences, like with family members, or like I learned to sew from my grandma. And it's like I feel like it brings so much more to it because it's not just like a technical kind of technique. It's a combination of like really skillful craftsmanship as well as like really beautiful connection to this emotional kind of history of someone as well, which I really like.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I've my mom, she made a quilt. Well, she finished a quilt a few months ago, and it's one of those friendship quilts where like a bunch of people will make like a block and then they're all like sewn together, and I like made one of block for her quilt, and it's just like so lovely, like all these connections, and like you meet a lot of people in the quilting community, which is like a little small, but everyone is so lovely.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, it's a very like woman dominated space. I don't think I've ever met a guy who quilts before, but I think it is nice having those little pockets in the art community where it is just women. It's like a very safe space.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So apart from Mudfest, do you have any other projects or works or anything coming up?
Not really. I mean, I also write poetry, so I have like poetry that gets published, but nothing else like any art shows planned for my quilts. I'm just gonna keep making them and try to offload some of my old ones onto my friends. I have a really big pile now that I'm getting rid of.
Where do you publish your poetry?
I started off being published in Farrago, which was very lovely.
That's so cool.
And I've recently been published in VoiceWorks, which is a under 25 Australian emerging writers magazine.
That's incredible. Congratulations. That's so great.
Oh, thank you.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I'm very excited to see your Mudfest work in the flesh.
Yes, me too. I just finished like the patchwork for my last quilt. So that was really exciting. So now I just need to like cut the backing and do the quilting and the binding. So I'm like halfway there.
Home stretch. So good. Well, thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you so much for talking to me today.